Hello, can everybody hear me? Okay. Hello to our crowd here. Thanks for coming in. Um, we are the Teen Life Committee, and we're really excited to be presenting to you today. We actually just started this committee. This is a newer committee about a year ago, I would say, and so we'll talk more about like resources and stuff at the end and the website, but on the screen. So the mission of the Teen Life Committee is to provide various resources and options to prepare and navigate the preteen and teen years. Our intention is to identify aspects that are most critical to navigating life in the teen years. So again, we are all volunteers with the information we're providing you today. We really want to support our families, so what you're hearing is just based on our personal experiences. Just keep in mind though, these suggestions are not legal or medical advice. Your child's medical team should be your main point of contact for your child's specific care. So again, welcome. My name is Ember Burke. I am communications coordinator for Duke 15Q Alliance. And I also, I was just thinking about this today. I actually have 4 teens in my house. And but my Brendan, who has Duke 15Q syndrome, is 15 years old.
I'm Lisa Fury. I'm on the Duke 15Q board and my son is almost 15.
My name is Adrienne Paradis. I'm the state representative for Colorado, and my son Aiden Paradis has isodycentric 15q syndrome.
I'm Shannon Rosvics. I live outside Chicago, Illinois, and my daughter is Riley Rosvics, and she is 17 with Duke 15q syndrome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Kelly. I am from Mason, Ohio, which is just north of Cincinnati. And my daughter, Caitlin, is 12. So we're kind of just coming into the teen years, and she's our duper.
Okay. Shannon, do you want to start off talking about the girls? Okay.
Yeah, so we were, as part of the team committee, we brainstorm a lot of different things. And as Ember had said, this is based on our personal experiences. So we started thinking about, what is it? What are the first signs of puberty for girls and boys? And really, when we started thinking about it, it's not so much different than typical kids, right? And for girls, I have Riley. You first start seeing some of the breast development and breast budding, some pubic hair, some kind of, with Riley, we saw some weight gain happen. She probably started when she was about 8, 9 years old when we started seeing some of the signs. Also just some of the body odor. And again, all very similar to, or the same things as what you'd see in the typical kids, obviously. I think the thing that, as a group we talked about, the thing that's different is, with a typical child, you're having a discussion to prepare them for going through puberty, where when you have, a kid like ours, you're really preparing yourself for, what's next, and trying to think about, okay, I'm seeing some of these signs of puberty. We, like, for my husband and I, we had to start preparing, having discussions with each other about, okay, how are we going to prepare ourselves for the growth that's going to happen and the changes that are going to happen with her, body and emotional changes that will happen. Again, it's just similar, this exact same type of physical things happen with our kids. It's just the difference is, preparing yourself for what's going to happen next and how you're going to handle it.
And then in terms of boys, it seems that boys can start a little bit later with puberty, and it can be as early up to 9 years old. And some signs deepening of the voice, penis and testicle enlargement can sometimes even double. Hair growth, like we talked about, and the pubic area and underarm areas, and just again, that body odor that Shannon talked about. But again, just, you know, you don't be surprised if you see those signs sooner than later, and the boys typically develop at a bit of a slower rate than the girls. Oh, did I go back too much? Oh, you know what? I gotta back up on. Okay, hold on here. So a little bit about precocious puberty. So when puberty begins before age 8 in girls and then before age 9 in boys, it is truly considered precocious puberty. So to diagnose that, doctors may review your child's and your family's medical history, do a physical exam, possibly even run blood tests to measure hormone levels. They may also recommend x-rays of your child's hands, wrist for a bone age study. Oh, and the other thing is those tests are typically ordered by a pediatric endocrinologist or a pediatric gynecologist. So a lot of us have, these lists of doctors and, if your child is having seizures. So these would just be some people to reach out to if you in fact did have some concerns. And in terms of treatment of precocious puberty, that may include medication to delay any further development. And then Jen, I was wondering, could you share a little bit about your experience with your daughter and what that looked like?
Sure. So like I said, Caitlin is 12, and when she was 8, we had a visit with a doctor in our just typical pediatrician's office, and the doctor noticed her breast bud development. So we started asking questions and became a little bit panicked because we're so used to things being delayed with our children that it kind of felt like, well, hold on a second. Why is that like happening now, if not sooner than what we would have expected? We didn't technically fall in precocious puberty at that point because she was already past the age of 8, but our pediatrician recommended we see a pediatric gynecologist because with the developmental delays, some of the other motor skills, things like that, she said, you may want to have a conversation about pausing puberty at this point, since we know that Caitlin's into the kind of moving through the phases of puberty. So we started doing that. And our first step, like I said, we were referred to a pediatric gynecologist. She did a quick bone x-ray, it's just of the hand. So it was very simple to get a baseline to start to see. And at 9, Caitlin was actually showing that she was just over 11 years old as far as her bone age. So as with her growth. And so she recommended we come back several months later, which we did. And her bone age went up a year in several months. So she went up to, almost 12 years old. So then we did a abdominal ultrasound, which showed the uterine lining thickening and kind of the horizon was coming as far as starting a cycle. We're very fortunate. Caitlin had infantile spasms, but we've been seizure free since then. And we know when menstruation can come in girls, it could trigger seizure activity. And so we thought, we had the conversation with the doctor and we decided to pause puberty at that point because we wanted to continue to gain what we were able to. So if that happens, we've gained what we could before we may add that layer in as far as medication and care. And she also told us that period management, as far as once our daughter starts her period, is there's more risk to it than pausing for a little while. So she just has a little implant in her upper arm that releases a steady level of hormone and it keeps her body like paused. And it's been great. We're 2 years into it now. And we've now been monitoring with blood work. So it's not once the implant's in, you just, after the first year, you have blood work done and it still shows that we're paused. So once we see the hormones start to tick up, then we'll have it removed and then we'll start moving forward to kind of continue on as normal. But we just, for our family's personal sake and our daughter and where she was in a integrated classroom, we just felt those were layers we didn't want in third grade for her to have to deal with. So that's our little personal story with pausing puberty.
Can affect their independence and add additional concerns for families at home, in schools, and other settings. Menstrual management of both normal and abnormal cycles may be requested to minimize hygiene issues, premenstrual symptoms, menstrual pain, heavy or irregular bleeding, and conditions exacerbated by the menstrual cycle. Several options are available. Your child's pediatrician, again, is the primary healthcare provider to explore and assist with this management. And then other changes to consider, growth spurts, which we just heard a little bit about, behaviors and seizures. I know in our particular situation, Brendan actually did have seizures when he was 3.5 years old is when they started. And then when he was about 12, all of a sudden I noticed like a new seizure type. And so I do think there was that correlation with the increase in the seizure activities and new seizure types during that time. But our committee has also put together a list of some home adaptations and adaptive equipment that can help make navigating the teen years easier, such as a toileting chair, a bath chair, car seats, which are all linked on the website. Yes, please. Mhm.
Sorry, I just thought of something. The doctor that we worked with, we live outside of Cincinnati, so we see a doctor through Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and she provided some resources and gave us permission through the Alliance to put on the Duke 15Q Alliance page. I'm not sure if that's up yet for the teen life area, but we were going to put on there. She had a nice chart that talked about different like for period management, birth control options, hormone options to manage menstruation, and also a little video that was kind of like a Q&A that she did with families through like a blog type deal that they recorded, and it talked about other products that might help for girls that have an aversion to seeing blood, like different things you could do so that there's not that visual kind of anxiety around, having their period. So just a little note that might be also on with the other listing of the items that we've discussed.
So my friend and education advocate, Lisa Leitner, who's also the parent of a child with IDIC, says that transition starts at kindergarten. And what she means is that the whole purpose of having an IEP, having goals and supports and special education, the whole reason why we have those IEPs is to prepare children eventually for adulthood, and that it should start as early as possible. So IDEA says that there should be a transition plan in a section of the IEP by the age of 16 or earlier. And in my state, Pennsylvania, you need it by 14, which means the child needs to be assessed by 13, which means that pretty much all the teen years, your child should be working on functional academics and have transition goals and activities. So transition, according to IDEA law, is a results-oriented process intended to smooth the student's movement to the post-school world. And for kids with IEPs, there needs to be a plan of coordinated activities and services to prepare them for future education, employment, independent living, and community participation. And I'm underlining the words results-oriented and coordinated. It's not a scattershot plan. IDEA recognizes that our kids will need more help getting over the line to functional adulthood, and they need a plan for that. So where does that start? First, there should be assessments to figure out your child's starting point, his present academic and functional levels. There should also be surveys about what your child's strengths to build on, interests to further develop, and preferences, what they like to do. And then we should have a vision of where we want to end up, right? So in terms of further education, you should think about what kinds of programs are available. And with our typical kids, we think of college, but there's also VOTEC, there's college bridge programs for special needs students, community college with supports, even art classes or cooking or music classes. And what kinds of skills does your child need to develop in order to access those types of educational opportunities later? In terms of employment, what kinds of jobs might your kid be interested in? Maybe they have a strong interest in animals and can volunteer at an animal shelter or work at a stable to learn about those types of skills. Or maybe they like to sort things and can work at a library or stock shelves at a store or work on an assembly line. Or maybe they like to push things and rip paper, as one Duke parent told me about their nonverbal daughter. And she ended up working 5 days a week, 3 hours a day for a government office, pushing a cart, collecting paper, and shredding it. And she's been doing this for 10 years and she needs support, but she can do it. Maybe you just don't know what your child likes, and you can set up a period of structured job exploration to help them try out different industries or skills or jobs. In terms of independent living, where do you think your child might live after they age out of education systems? And what do they need to do to live as independently as possible? So COVID was a great time to work on all kinds of chores, like making beds, emptying the dishwasher, taking out recycling, harvesting our garden, our COVID garden, cooking casseroles for the homeless. And there are so many small steps to master to do any of those things, from sequencing steps in a process to reading checklists to learning how to measure out ingredients. And other aspects of independent living are personal hygiene, safety, being able to access public transportation, having social skills. And in terms of community participation, what kind of organizations are there in your community? Maybe church or Special Olympics or recreation associations that your child can join now as a teen and not age out of when they're an adult. So what kind of leisure skills can you help your child build now, from quietly watching movies in a movie theater, or doing puzzles, or ordering meals at restaurants? One mom I know practiced bowling to teach her daughter how to like it, because all the day programs in our area for intellectually disabled adults go bowling at least once a week in the winter. So three pieces of advice here. One is, it's incredibly helpful to network with parents of children a bit older than yours to see what kinds of creative options exist. Like school placement, nobody will ever give you the full menu of options, and the plan should be specific to your child anyways. A second piece of advice is that you can invite other people and agencies to your IEP meetings now. So for example, you could invite the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation to come, and there's experts in transition and employment supports and training for your child, and get them involved. And then thirdly, you can work on life skills and leisure skills at home from a very young age, and that will just help them in adulthood. So then I'll pass it to Adrienne to talk about how her family and her child went through this process.
So Aiden just turned 15, and in Colorado, the transition process starts at 14. So we just went through this. And so I'm not an expert on IEP transitions, but I can tell you what we learned through the process and what we're focusing on now. If your child has not gone to middle school, I can tell you it's a really rough transition. The neurotypical classmates change a lot. The curriculum gets drastically harder, and the playground is non-existent. And so their whole day changes. So we enrolled him in a school that supposedly had the best SSN program in the district. But unfortunately, even at this good program, he fell through the cracks. They just didn't know what to do with him. So we hired an advocate. And if you can, I would highly recommend getting an advocate for this process, because she was able to ask questions that we never even thought of. And she knew the law to get him to the place where he is now, which is a very specialized program, a specialized high school. They took him in actually in 8th grade. They took him in a grade early because we had an advocate and she was able to get him into this program. I was really initially hesitant for this program because it is so specialized. He was taken out of the regular classroom, so it was not the least restrictive environment. But it really is the best place for him to manage his needs and manage his behaviors. So to start off, this process, you'll have a lot of assessments. And in addition to your regular assessments by your OT, SLP that you normally have for your IEPs, he had a cognitive assessment, which he hadn't had since, I think, second grade. He had a low vision assessment because he does have CVI, so we wanted to see where he was with that. He had an assistive technology assessment because he does use a talker, and we wanted to see where he was with that. He's been on it about 5 years. He had a new functional behavioral assessment, which led into a new behavioral intervention plan. So he had a lot of assessments. And so based off of these assessments, you'll come up with 3 measurable and achievable goals. The first is a post-school education training goal, which is increasing their independence at home, in the school, and the community. The second is a career employment goal. And so what skills can you build on now to where they're able to work with a helper? And the third is an independent living goal, which is their daily living skills. And that's basically their ADLs, if you're familiar with those. So to formulate these goals, you'll need to do a little bit of vision work and ask yourself some questions, and your child, if they're able to participate in this. That's very important to involve them. So first question is, where do you see your child after school? Are they living with you? Do you see them in a group home, host home, college, even if that's a possibility, independent living with support? Also, what type of daily activities do you see them participating in? What does their day look like? Are they in a day program? Are they doing hobbies? What are their social activities? And then what type of supported employment opportunities do you see for your child? So what are their interests? What do they like? More importantly, what do they don't like? And what are they good at? And try to ask yourself. And then after that, you need to ask yourself, what do you need to do to get them to that point? And backtrack and kind of, you were talking about backstepping and starting at step 1 and building yourself up into these goals. And I can tell you that the most important thing going through this process is to keep your expectations high, because when they get to this age, you can get a little discouraged because that gap definitely widens between your child and the classmates they've grown up with since preschool. But I can tell you that Aiden at 15, he's increased so much in maturity. He listens to us, even though he's nonverbal, he understands everything that we say. He follows directions. And we are in the throes of puberty. I mean, we have slam doors and everything at home. But he really surprises us what he's capable of at this point. And so it happens really fast, you know, when they get to this point. And it just feels like yesterday I was formulating his first IEP at his preschool. And I guarantee you tomorrow I'll be at his graduation. And I don't want to be sitting there in the chair asking what's next. And so this is the process that you start now to answer that question.
Thank you. So within the Alliance, I feel like when your child receives a diagnosis, we have Carissa Harris, who supports families during that beginning time. And then I feel like, you know, then our kids go into early childhood. And then there was an adult life committee that was started. And then we felt like we had this gap, right, between these like preteen and teen years. So myself and Nika have had a few calls with the adult life committee, because we're like, okay, what can you teach us, you know, with my child being at this age? Like, what do you wish you knew or you knew sooner? And some of this is going to be you know, I know you already talked about this stuff, but again, start looking in your communities for transition programs around age 15 or 16, adult living, day programs, rec programs. I know, I'm a former special education teacher, and I think that's helpful in terms of like thinking outside the box of like, so for example, Brendan actually did special ed rec, and actually we live in the same town with the special rec program. And Jenna kept saying, you have to send Brendan, you have to send Brendan. It's like a Saturday program, and they would go bowling, go out to eat. You know, they'd have like a few different activities. And I was like, bowling? I'm like, I don't know, you know, I don't, Brendan loves bowling. What he does is for the ramps, you know, he gets assistance. And I think he likes the weight of the bowling ball. He brings it over and with assistance. And then he independently pushes it down the ramp. And I'm so great. Well, I'm so grateful for you, you know, and this is how we learn, right? I was like, she knows what she's talking about, so I'm going to give it a try. So what's so awesome is like it's like an activity our whole family can do. So sometimes on, you know, because I feel like there's not, you know, there's a handful of things that we can do together, right? So it's just so cool. A lot of the times on New Year's Day, like that's our like special treat, and we go to like a nicer, cooler bowling place. And so it's so anyway, those are some examples. Again, every time you talk to somebody, you're learning something. Like I know at first, you know, some people who are a little bit more introverted, but like I've learned so much, you know, I learned so much all the time, whether it's in a text group with other Duke 15Q moms, you know, obviously being here. And then just cultivating those contacts and information as you go. And again, the earlier the better. Because I know even in the moms group yesterday, we were talking a little bit about, well, yeah, like what does your child's future look like? It's a scary thought, but even right now with Brendan being 15, like there are so many things like he can do, you know. I remember when he was in second grade, for the they had a holiday sing. He was in a typical building, excuse me, and his teacher said to me, "Oh, he doesn't want to like stand on, you know, with the other kids and sing." Well, he's nonverbal, but they wanted him up there, so you know we haven't been bringing him down to practice. And I was like, "Oh," I'm like, well, let's talk about how he can participate in that activity, right? So I was like, okay, well, can he announce the songs on his iPad? You know, can he greet people at the door? You know, I feel like there's always a way, you know, to maximize their ability to integrate, you know. And then it's so funny, he really likes cooking and pouring. Well, he likes pouring. So I'm like, wait a minute. So whenever sometimes he'll go in the pantry and just bring a box of pasta, you know, and so I'm like, okay, you know, it's 10 in the morning, but guess what? We're going to make some pasta. So, and I even find like, and he likes putting things in. So I'm thinking of these things that he's good at and make him happy. And what is that going to look like when he's older? A few other things, reach out to other families in your community that have adult children with disabilities. They can help you navigate resources in your community, start cultivating friendship groups. This is one thing that the Adult Life Committee really wish that they, you know, wish they did, sorry. Because like, honestly, Brendan doesn't have that many friends, but like he's friends with Riley, and sometimes we'll go over to their house and they'll just sit on the couch and watch TV. But they like, you know, they like to snuggle together, and usually they end up sleeping and, you know, taking a little nap, watching their movies. But so cultivating those friendships, you know, and again, the leisure activities. And as your child is coming up to the transition years, this was a great idea. Create a visual resume. So take videos of your child doing something. For example, the school, and you can ask the school to do this too, right? Because sometimes they do things at school that they won't do for us parents at home. So for example, Brendan is in charge of bringing lunch trays down back to the cafeteria. He pushed the cart, I watched this video, from his classroom all the way to the cafeteria, unloaded, and this was his daily job. And you know what made me so happy is he was so happy doing it, you know? And there's PT involved too. And, you know, so that routine that we know our kids thrive on. And actually I do too, to be honest with you. So creating a visual resume, which I thought was a fabulous idea, you know, whether you're doing that at home or doing that at school. What else here? Yes. Do you want, you, okay. So the one thing they also suggested is, you know, for individuals, well, even that are, you know, verbal, just really to focus early as you can on yes and no. Like if they can, you know, really understand that skill, I mean, that can really open up a lot of doors for your child. Understand communicating the yes, no. This opens up a world of choices. Oh, self-care. They all just self-care. And I know the Adult Life Committee, how it's currently functioning is they have a call, I believe it's twice a month. When I went on some of those calls, it was a lot of self-care. It was just a lot of them talking about what's currently going on, you know, with their adult child with 15q syndrome. And so I think that's actually where this Teen Life Committee is going to head. So we will start having, I believe, like monthly calls, you know, so we'll get some more of that information out to you. Yeah, and just taking care of yourself, your physical health. Don't put off those doctor appointments. I mean, I know our kids have enough appointments to begin with, but really take care of yourself mentally and physically too, because our kids are leaning on us. You know, Brendan doesn't do this, but I know a lot of our kids are laying on the floor and they have some behaviors. So just really all that self-care. Okay. Let's see. And then we also, and this will all be on the website. It is on the website, just some additional references. Okay. Now we'll do some questions. Or does anybody have any questions or want to bounce anything off that you're struggling with or going through?
So Annabelle had mentioned is starting high school. And with the transition, what are the types of things you've been through the IP process now? What are the types of things focused on?
First off, Mike, is it a new school, a new building? Okay.
It's a lot more kids. 'Cause it's
Okay.
basically 6 elementary schools.
So this will be in the fall, correct?
Yeah, she's actually doing a summer program. now,
Oh.
But it's only special ed kids there now, but the rest of the kids will come.
Yeah, well, that was one thing I was just thinking of is to get her acclimated even with the building. And I would contact your, you know, either the special ed director to see if you could set up or, you know, whoever your point of contact is to even do some, you know, what else can they offer you where she would be involved. But what do you think, Shannon?
I would ask, I mean, I don't know what the program looks like, but are they doing community outings? Okay,
Even now in the summer program, they're, you know, going to the grocery store, everyone gets one piece of candy.
Yeah.
cash register, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah,
that, and then also like what Umber had said is talking about a job around school. If you've not done that, then stuff, yeah. I mean, like, so Riley, her job at school is she loves coffee and she's super motivated by coffee. So her job at school became, and they knew that when she went into high school, they knew like this coffee was her motivator. So her job at school is, they have like a coffee area for the teachers and she does the K-cups with help. And then at the end of the week, she goes around and collects the coffee money from the teachers or the staff or whatever. So like, I think like talking to whoever the teacher is or coordinator or whatever is right off the bat about, you know, jobs or like Brendan's job
Mhm.
is pushing the cart, like something to kind of try
Mhm.
to get her there. I think that's super important.
Another thing you might look into is extracurricular activities. So our public high school they're the state champions for integrated bocce ball. So it's typical peers and disabled peers working together and on the same team, and they compete against other high schools. So there might be opportunities for her to do that. I've got a runner and you can't guarantee that your child would be on the team, but maybe they can practice or play some kind of support role for different types of teams if she's interested in sports or art clubs, that sort of thing.
And then I know a lot of high schools have a lot of clubs, right? You know, like I know at our high school, there's, they do like like volunteer work and things such as that. Oh, like a buddy program too. I wonder if they have something like that.
That's a great question.
Yeah, so like, that's what I'm thinking.
I know you have a daughter, but Boy Scouts has a sort of an IEP process for being able to achieve the merit badges. And so, for
Mm.
example, our son, he can't tie knots, but you have to go through an approval process through the council, but he was able to match what types of knots, what the name is, what you would use it for. He could recognize them, and that was enough to meet that particular part of the merit badge. He couldn't describe, the patrols and who was in charge, but we took pictures of the boys and leadership roles, and we matched the names to the pictures and what the role was. So he was able to get the functional, result and still work towards his merit badges. But there's a lot of ways that you can adapt programs that are
Mhm.
already there.
Mhm. The other thing I was thinking is, some things I've done in the past is, if Brendan's going through a tough time with like seizures or, or like a new building, is like about 30 to 45 days in from the school year, I typically request an IEP meeting, even if there's really not anything pressing that we need to talk about, but just to kind of have a touch base like sooner than later, so if there is something that you feel like she isn't getting, to have that discussion sooner. So that's always an idea.
I'll say too, we talked a lot about friendships. And I think, we as parents hold a lot of responsibility for making those connections. But I think, I know you guys, and I'm sure you're involved, but getting involved in the school in whatever way you can, and getting to know those other parents that have, kids that are similar to Annabelle in the program is hugely helpful. Because, like Ember said, Brendan will come over, Riley will go over there, and it might be with their caretakers. And then there's another girl in their school that they get together with. So like when we were at home for quarantine, the three of them last summer, there was nothing going on at all. And the three of them, we were like in a pod with the
We
three of
created our-
them.
Yeah.
We created a pod, and you know what? They were not interacting with each other all the time, but they had one another, right? Like, so I think like for being involved and helping facilitate that is super important. And plus it's nice, you get some good friends along the way.
But it can also evolve into a living situation later. Like you could have roommates, for example, if you start those foundational friendships in high school.
And then something that our high school does. Now Brendan doesn't go to that high school, but his sisters go there, and then his brother will go there. So every year they choose one nonprofit and they fundraise for it. So what we did was, so we thought, do 15Q Alliance, because everybody, I don't know if everybody knows Brendan, like wherever we go. I'll be like, if Brendan, I want to say Brendan, like sometimes I say, oh, how do you know my son, But one awesome thing is, they chose Do 15Q Alliance. And so every fundraiser, like let's say during Christmas, they had like a Santa, and like you could take your picture with Santa for $1. And then we did a Super Bowl fundraiser. So, and what was awesome about that was that the awareness piece, and obviously the fundraising, I think they raised, was it $45,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody just knew Brendan. There were blue Duke 15, the whole like cheer squad on social media had like these blue shirts, Duke 15Q Alliance. It was amazing. And I feel like you know, I'm not telling you to do a fundraiser, Mike, but no, but like, you know, getting other kids in the building, you know, maybe they have something similar to that is what is my point, so.
Great, thank you all.
Does anybody else have anything they want to?
Tips on how to help with that, because we don't really know if it's grants or if it's just like emotional crying, frustration. Stuff like
Yeah, so I have Riley who's 17 and so we've had kind of a strain like with her menstruation. She started when she was 12. And we had prepared for it and we immediately, pretty immediately put her on a birth control pill. That was our choice to do to help with some of that emotions. And also my daughter's nonverbal. So I didn't know, like, she can't tell us like, hey, I'm not feeling good or, you know, from whatever it is, you know, her premenstrual stuff. So we did that and did not, you know, after time, after, you know, it started kicking in, we didn't see anything like that. So it could be an option. Just because they can't tell you. I mean, it's frustrating for any kind of, you know, illness or if our kids just don't feel good one day and we're pushing them through something, right? So yeah, that's what we did.
we did correct, math, stubborn, argumentative.
And they can't teach you, but you can kind of rebuild, you know, at least your own kid.
Right, but I do, I just kind of take my language back down to his language. And I tell him, Mom's not going to. Because they're gonna have those kids over from big guy.
You're right. Yeah.
I always found that de-escalating story is better than trying to come around them. Right, I guess de-escalating is a better way of. No, getting upset probably just triggers that.
Not necessarily giving them what he wants, but.
It's almost a sensory issue too. You start escalating.
Right.
things, feeding on that sensory issue.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. We don't really discipline Aiden because if we find that if we do discipline him, it just escalates that behavior in him. So talking him through it, bringing your energy level down, being the eye of the storm, basically, and getting him through it, talking him through it is better.
Emotional too, because it depends on what environment you're in, right?
Mm.
So if it is a strange or busy environment, maybe you just need a break from it. Or if he's had a lot of demands or medical appointments and he's out of his comfort zone, you know, maybe he just needs like time to to process that himself. Or maybe he's not feeling comfortable, right? I mean, maybe he's got a blister, like he can't, like my kids
Mm,
can't always.
yeah.
So we do a lot of medical sleuthing, right? So like,
Mm.
are his teeth okay?
Yeah,
Is his
it's
stomach
difficult to
okay?
know.
When was the last time he pooped? You know, we do a lot of
Yeah.
that, like medical stuff to try to find out. And because like again, it goes back to knowing your kid. Like my kid's baseline is pretty joyful. So if he's upset
Mm.
about something, it's unusual.
Mhm.
And it could be something, and the thing is also is he processes things really slowly. So there could be an event at school that happened 3 days ago, and we're just seeing the repercussions today. Think about that. I mean, there's a huge
Mm.
delay on him
Mhm.
figuring out what exactly happened. And we'll find out a kid hit him or something, but it happened days earlier. And he just thinking about it will get him really upset. And he's not able to communicate those particularities, but we can kind of, again, do some sleuthing about what happened.
Mm.
Back to the IEP discussion, assuming that process. Before, because sometimes they send to school hard, but it's supposed to not. And we know.
What state are you in? Okay, have you ever gone and asked to observe any of his therapies or his classroom? Okay. I'm wondering if that's something you can do, or,
And if they
What-
don't let you observe him, any outside therapists that you might have might go in and observe him. So if he gets outside speech or OT or ABA, you can ask for your person to go and see how he's doing in school so that you can work on the same types of goals inside and outside of school. Generalization of those skills is really important.
you know what else I was thinking is, for example, you said you got that paper home and it wasn't his signature. Well, they need to, I would request, like, was this hand over hand? Like, it sounds like you need more communication from them. Is what I'm hearing.
And I would,
Sorry.
I would also say, like, maybe work with an advocate, or I'd be willing to work with you also, just to come up with ideas. But the educational plan that your child has in high school should look really different from what it was before high school because we're getting ready for what he's going to be doing after high school. So if he's working on a lot of academic goals that are inappropriate, each goal should be meaningful. So so for example, you might work on sight words that like, can he read chicken nuggets and pasta? So if he sees a menu, he can decide what he wants to eat. Like it should be really, like, can he recognize the signs for exit? Can he cross the street safely? You know, things that he's going to need to navigate as an adult that will be meaningful to him.
When is your next IEP meeting? Or did you have one? Rec- So is he getting OT, PT speech at school? And privately? And, okay, okay.
So, and then the other thing is that even if he doesn't get the therapy from the therapist, for example, like he's not getting PT, say he gets PT half an hour a week. The PT can train his one-on-one or his classroom teacher for different activities that he can do during the day. So for example, Brendan pushes the cart down the hallway to return the trays. Like that takes a lot of coordination and strength. And so maybe there are certain jobs that he can, what's meaningful would be to integrate the therapies into his everyday routine. He doesn't necessarily need the therapies per se, but he should have those therapists have input into what his day looks like so that he's working on skills that are meaningful for adulthood. Does that make sense?
It's getting close to 3. So I encourage all of you to check out our website, do15q.org. There's some references under the teen life area. And I need to make sure, Jennifer, that's up there as well.
And also the IEP education section of the website for transition.
Yes. And there is an IEP help ticket, and maybe that's where you want to start, where you can ask more specific questions, so that's available as a resource to you as well. But thank you so much for joining us today, and I welcome all of you to go to the main room for closing remarks. Thank you.